If you guys want one-on-one training, online training, or nutritional coaching, please head on over to my website, jpfitnesspro.com. Just go to the services tab and select which one you would like. You can also subscribe to my newsletter and contact me through my website as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks.
What is up, everybody? This is JP, and this is part 2 in the deadlift grip video series. And this second part is going to cover deadlift grips in regards to people training for hypertrophy or general population. Basically anyone who's not training for a competition that requires you to lift maximal loads or requires you to not use straps or anything like that. But first things first is to go over the one video fact about me, and that is that I was before I was streaming actually with video games. So I did have a Twitch and I was streaming for a little bit. I had some things happen and I moved states, so I kind of had to put a halt onto that. But when I start doing that again, I'll actually let you guys know so you guys can chime in and then see learn more things about me not related to fitness. But again, as I've told you guys numerous times, again, I'm a big gamer, and I was streaming for a little bit, but I had to stop. But I do want to get back to that. But to get into the video, I'm going to give you a quick recap. The 4 types of grips are a mixed grip, which is over-under. It's also called over-under. So you have one hand supinated and one hand pronated. So again, it would either be this way or this way. The second grip would be double over, so just 2 pronated hands, just like this. The third grip would be 2 pronated hands, but you have straps on. So again here, but you wrap straps around the bar. And then the fourth grip would be a hook grip. So again, it's 2 pronated hands, except you're wrapping your hands, your fingers around your thumb while it's around the bar. So those are the 4 types of grips you could do during a deadlift. Now, the main difference here, obviously, between these for hypertrophy and general population versus powerlifters is that you actually now can use straps, because if you're not going to compete, then obviously it doesn't matter what you do, and straps are now part of the equation. So again, the same pros and cons are there for the first type of grip, which is a mixed grip or an over-under grip. Some people also call it an alternate grip. And the pros are that it's a simple grip to use. Over-under, there's not a technical aspect to it. And then the second pro of it is that, again, it's just a grip that lets you hold a lot of weight. For most people, if you have chalk, a bar with good knurling, and your grip isn't like a terribly out of the norm factor, like you just don't have a oddly abnormally weak grip. Like even if your grip's sort of weak, if you have a bar with good knurling and you have chalk, you should be able to hold very heavy loads with just deadlifting. So that's why I like the mixed grip. The cons of the mixed grip are going to be if you're someone who wants perfect symmetry, and since this part of the series applies to people training for hypertrophy, this might be something that deters you just a little bit more than the powerlifting video. I didn't mention this during the powerlifting part of this series, but because this is specifically for people for hypertrophy, I would be really wary of this. If you're not doing a ton of deadlifts, then this still might be okay. Or maybe you can just keep an eye on your physique and have anyone ask you. Maybe you can ask a friend who doesn't know what you do over under, and then you can ask them if they see any differences, since they don't know which hand goes over or which hand goes under. And if you maybe have a coach or something, have them check your physique after a while. If you start to see that you get a little bit unsymmetrical, then you might want to just completely get rid of the mixed grip. So that's something that I will note as a con, because this is for hypertrophy and general population. If you're general population and you're not training for like hypertrophy, you're not doing bodybuilding or anything, then I guess it's not that big of a deal and the cons aren't that huge. The other con of a mixed grip, again, is that, like I said before, I don't know if there's any science to back this up, but you might run a slight increased risk of a bicep tear on the supinated hand, because with the supinated hand, people tend to want to curl when your hand's supinated more so than when your hand is pronated, and that's just from my experience. That's definitely an anecdote, but it's just when you hear people tear their biceps during a deadlift, it's usually in the supinated hand, because again, you just curl that way. So when you deadlift, you try to curl, and when you try to curl a heavy weight, you're eccentrically loading that bicep with hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and that's just a risk of a bicep tear all over it. So that's one thing that you have to keep in note. So again, that's another downside for someone who's like maybe going the bodybuilding route or something. General population, obviously it's still a con, but if you're training for hypertrophy and that's your main goal and you want to do bodybuilding, then you need to be careful of that. The second grip we're going to go over is a double over. Now, it's just like this, double over, no straps, no hook grip. Now, when you're doing double over, again, you still have to think about the fact that it is limiting. So we'll go with the cons first on this one because of its bodybuilding, is that you can't really train heavy with this for most people. Now, that doesn't really matter so much because you're not training to do powerlifting. But one thing you do have to remember is that even if you're not training for powerlifting, you at some part of your training, you do want to lift heavy. But again, because you're not powerlifting, what you could do is during all your lighter work, you could just do double over. And if training heavy isn't a huge part of your program, which if you're training specifically for hypertrophy, most of your training should be in the 7 to 15 rep range, then maybe just do mixed grip or straps for heavier work. But again, that's one thing is, you know, even though you're not training specifically for strength. Now, this video is also addressing people who are in the general population. So if you're a general population lifter, you don't want to be a powerlifter, you're not going to be a bodybuilder. Let's just say you're someone who likes training heavy. You do have to remember that double over grip is going to be limiting in that. So that's the one con. But besides that one con, I think that in this category of people, general population and people for hypertrophy, that double over grip is a lot more viable. If you want to do double over and you like doing double over, but you don't like straps or hook grip, then just do double over until you can't hold the bar anymore, until you get to a load that you know you're just not able to hold, and then switch over to one of the other different forms of grips. Now, the next grip is going to be straps, and this is one that I didn't address in a powerlifting video because you're probably never going to be able to use straps in competition. Actually, at least I've never heard of a competition that lets you. Maybe some Olympic lifting or something, but not in powerlifting. So that's one thing that you could use now. And if you're someone who is a bodybuilder and you want to lift heavy, that's probably a perfect issue, is don't use straps. Don't use straps if you don't have to, and when you have to use straps, then you use them. That'll make sure that you're getting in enough grip work, you know, and you're not kind of like getting a weak forearms or weak grip because you're always using straps, but you're using straps when you have to. Now, the other thing to note, so that would be a pro, is that you are able to lift heavy loads, and the second pro is you're also able to keep perfect symmetry because you have two pronated hands. Now, the downside with that, or the small downside with straps, is that if you use them too much or you use them through all your deadlift work, then you could be not getting the grip work that you need, especially if you're not getting it elsewhere. So again, you could just solve that by doing what I said, is don't use straps until you have to. So work all the way up until a weight that you can't use straps, then use straps. But the next con is that it does have a small, tiny learning curve for it. So you do have to kind of get used to using straps. So if you're someone who is so used to not using straps, it's going to take a little bit, but again, that's not a huge con. So if you're someone who doesn't mind using straps and you can afford them, they shouldn't be too expensive, then I actually think straps are something good. Yeah, that's something that you could definitely do. Now, if you're in the general population group, you're not a bodybuilder and you're not a power lifter, but you like to train heavy, and you know, you may think, well, if I use straps, the lift might not count. Some of your friends or something may say, oh, we're using straps, so that's something that you might want to keep in your head too. But again, I think straps are a good option for this category, these two categories of people versus power lifters. So that's something you could definitely do. And then the last one will be hook grip. Now, this is probably one of the weakest grips in here because you're not trying to be a powerlifter and you might be doing it for bodybuilding. Is I don't really see the reason to do hook grip over straps or over a mixed grip. If you're doing double over with straps, that's kind of like you're getting symmetry and you're able to hold heavy loads. And then mixed grip, same thing, maybe not as much symmetry. And then double over, you know, symmetry but not heavy loads. But a hook grip kind of, and again, hook grip is just where you wrap your fingers around your thumb. So it kind of, one, you're getting the benefits of all of them, but there's that hard beginning part where it's so painful that you kind of have to get through that. But why are you forcing yourself to get through that when you can just either go straps or you can go a mixed grip, if you get what I'm saying? So if you can get through the pain of the mixed grip, which is the main only con for it, then definitely you could try hook grip. And again, if you don't like straps and then mixed grips, non-symmetry is kind of bugging you, but you don't like straps, then you could just go hook grip because it kind of solves those problems. But again, it has like a hard barrier there for you to just get into it. It's because it's so painful. So again, if I had to rank these in order, it would probably be double over, and then double over with straps if you're not so worried, if you're really worried about symmetry. That would be number one, and then mixed grip and then hook grip. And if you're really worried about symmetry, if you're worried about symmetry. So if you're not worried about symmetry, then it would go mixed grip. Then at a close second, it would be straps and no straps double over. I kind of put those in two because you can use no straps until you get to a weight that you can't hold. So it would be those kind of like tied for second, and then the last again would be hook grip. Now, hook grip could be first for you if you don't like the others. That's just my opinion. So again, you have to remember with this is that you're not training to be a powerlifter. You don't have anything you have to do. So you just got to think about the pros and cons, and this is more of a personal thing, but you can take these tips to help you figure out which one's good for you. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.